Alright, hello 7th graders. Hopefully you had a great weekend. We have a pretty big lesson today, so it's really important that you're listening up. Remember, anything that's in red, fill in the blank. Anything that's blue, make sure that you are doing. It is instructions. So today we're going to look at integrating quotations. You guys have worked so hard on making sure that you've picked great quotes to put in your essay, and so now you have to make sure that you are including them and introducing them appropriately. So why do you want to learn this? When writing an essay, it's extremely important that you use evidence, also known as details, also known as quotations, in order to support your claim or analysis. This really helps you prove your point and make a stronger claim. You should also just never drop a quote into your paper. You need to make sure that you introduce it, so you don't just want to place the quote randomly without introducing it or explaining it. So that's why we're going to be doing this today. You need to make sure that when you put quotes into your paper that you are using strong evidence and concise evidence. If there's different parts of a very large quote that you can use, then you can always cut it down. You don't need to use the whole quote. You can cut the quote or use only the strongest points. If you need to cut a part of the quote out, then you put what is called an ellipses, and this looks just like this right here. This is an ellipses. It's 3 dots or 3 periods in a row. Go ahead right now and draw the ellipses on your paper. And then I want you to write down what the purpose of the ellipses is. Go ahead and write that down. You're just going to be restating what you see right here. An ellipses is so that you can cut part of a quote out. It shows your reader that you have cut out part of the quote. Alright, so there's a couple different ways that you can integrate quotes. The first way is by using a lead-in. A popular way to bring quotes into your text is by introducing them as an example with what is called a lead-in sentence starter. This is one of the fairly obvious and easiest, as most of you have already used this before. You use it to lead the quote that you are explaining by using the word example. For instance, my lead-in would be, another example from the article is. This is my lead-in sentence, and then I have my quote. An example from the article is, diarrheal disease kills 1.5 million children every year. And then I have my author's name and a period. So that's the example for a lead-in. Some other ways to use a lead-in sentence are, a text example is, an example from the organization's website is, or another text example is. It's always really important that you are stating another or in addition if you are putting multiple quotes in. Right now I want you to try and come up with your own example for a lead-in quote and go ahead and write that down on your paper. You can pause the video if you need to, but write down a lead-in to a quote on your paper. Alright, moving on. Another way to integrate quotes is using direct quotations, and this is basically you telling me that you're not just citing an example or relating something to something else, but you are giving me a direct quotation. You are giving me it straight from the source, and it's kind of makes it very important. Oftentimes when writing, you'll be using a direct quote statement from a text or a source. In that case, you can use one of the following introductions. An example would be, in the novel, Salva states, no one shall be denied clean water. And there I have Linda Sue Park's name, the page number. The period should actually be right here. My introduction here is in the novel, Salva states. And here we have the word states, shows me that this is going to be a direct quotation. This is something that Salva directly said. Other examples that we have are the author states, the article states, Park claims. This can be best explained by the following quote. It lets us know that you are leading into a direct quotation. So again, I want you to go ahead and see if you can come up with your own direct introduction in your packet. So write your own sentence starter for a direct quotation in your packet. And again, you can pause the video if you need to. Alright, in addition to direct quotations, we also use what is called a that statement. One way to integrate quotations is using a that statement. For example, Salva promises that. So we know that whatever comes next is a promise from Salva. It is a direct quotation. It's an example here. Water for South Sudan delivers direct, transformative, sustainable quality of life service to the people in South Sudan. And this is my quote from the website. And again, I have my website in parentheses and a period. Which word comes before the quote to help introduce it? Go ahead and write that word. When you're using a that statement, which word would you put before the quote to help introduce it? Write that down in your packet. Other that statements would include the author states that, research shows that, another example is that. So oftentimes you don't necessarily need the word that. You could also state the author states and then put in the quote, and so it'll still work without the word that, but if you want to put it in, that's okay. Write down your own that statement in your packet, so make sure that you are also following along and following directions. And then go ahead and pause the video if you need to. I will be moving on. Another way to integrate quotes is using your own thoughts. You can always integrate your own thoughts into an essay, even though we won't be doing it on this one. An example of integrating your own thoughts, however, would be, after exploring the Water for South Sudan website, I can conclude that they are making immeasurable impacts on the lives of those in South Sudan by building over 257 wells and helping over 50,000 people. Now, here is my statistic and information and my evidence for my essay, and while I am not putting it in direct quotations, I am making a conclusion. The only problem is, in an expository essay, you don't want to use the word I. So you can say, after exploring the website Water for South Sudan, it can be concluded that they are making an immeasurable impact. Other ways to integrate your thoughts are, after examining blank source, I understand that, or when it explains whatever it explains, I think, or, this one we've seen a lot, from this text I can infer. So there are many different ways to integrate your own thoughts. However, like I said before, even though it's important to know how to introduce quotes using your own thinking, because there will be many essays in which you are using your own thinking, the pronoun I or my will not be used in your paper because it is an expository essay. You will only be stating facts. This essay is unbiased and does not include opinions. Therefore, you will not be using the word I or my. So if you want to use one of these methods of forming your own conclusions, then you need to make sure that you are stating it as fact and not using a pronoun such as I, my, or we. What I want you guys to do now is to take out the graphic organizer that you completed over the weekend for homework. There should be 6 quotes on there total, and I want you to go ahead and pick 3 of them. You only need to pick 3 of them, and write down a transition or an introduction or an integration sentence for those 3. It's really important that you're practicing this because it helps your essay become more cohesive and flow well together, and that's what makes you an excellent writer. And we all want to become excellent writers, so make sure that you are practicing your transitions. Alright, that's it. If you have any questions, make sure to ask your green lanyards or your teacher.